It does. All right. Oh, that's perfect. That's just great. Okay. All right.
How wonderful.
You comfortable here?
It's really comfortable.
Okay, great. I'm gonna let.
You want the door open or closed?
I'm gonna leave it open initially, and then we'll put the heat on closer to class and close the door, because some people will come in to set up their mats. And... All right.
Wow.
Sabrina's here. All right. Well, hello, Dorothy.
Hi.
Happy birthday to you. So happy that you're here with us.
Yes. It feels like it's been 80 years coming.
80 years coming? This birthday specifically?
Yes, it's every birthday that you have, that's a big number,
Mm-hmm.
is a opportunity to celebrate your life and to say thank you in a deeper way than just you. You know, you have to do something for others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to be a better person, more patient, more giving. You know, more in every way extend the gratitude that you feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
And little things and big things.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Do you have any little things or big things that you feel
Well,
that you've been thinking about?
I have a child that I sponsor, a sponsored child who worked with vision, and I chose her because she was ill, and she was the only one that was presented that was ill,
Okay.
and her birthday's the day too, of course.
Really?
Yeah, and she's in Niger,
Okay.
and I just feel like blessing her and not able to be around her or see her,
Mm-hmm.
but to extend that warmth and assurance that her life is going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, every month I send a portion, a tiny portion of wealth to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, $39 to me means a lot, but to her it means the world of difference.
Right. Wow.
And I have another child that I'm thinking about sponsoring. I'm not just thinking about it, I'm going to do it when I get home.
Okay.
It's a little boy in Cambodia,
Oh, wow.
and I chose him because he's in a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
So that gave me two children that I will make sure long after I'm not here will have a secure future.
Wow. That's wonderful. I'd like to, Ina, can you hear us okay out there? Great, wonderful. Hi, sweetie, how you doing? Oh, and your kitty too. All right. Dorothy and I just talking. You can listen in. Hi. That's wonderful. I'd like to, Ina, can you hear us okay out there? Great, wonderful. Hi, sweetie, how you doing? Oh, and your kitty too. All right. Dorothy and I just talking. You can listen in. Hi. Oh, let me turn, I'm missing one thing I have to turn on, Ina. Sorry, I can't hear you yet. Put the TV on. Okay, go ahead. Oh, sorry, it's still not working. See, good thing we're testing all of this. Speakers. Okay, will you say one thing? Let's see if it works.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dorothy.
Happy birthday! Oh,
Yeah, you're truly an inspiration.
wow!
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
My daughter was here. She's 9 years old, and I told her, of course, about your birthday, and she just saw you. And she said that you look very nice.
Oh,
That's so sweet. Thanks for being here.
Well, you know, I'll tell you something else about the day. This is my first birthday party. I never had a birthday party when I was a child.
Really?
No.
Oh, wow. This is Dorothy's first birthday party.
Yeah, well, my very first one was with the birthday party that you gave me some time ago.
Oh.
This is my first big birthday party.
This is a big one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, your birthday class is always special, but this one's extra special. So, wow, that's really cool. I had a couple of little questions for Dorothy. Let's see if we can just chat, you know, because we talk a lot, I hear a lot from you, but not everyone gets to. And certainly we only have a short time, but I thought it'd be nice to just have a little bit. So can you tell us just a little bit, just kind of summarize some of the things you've done kind of in the course of your life? You don't have to go into a huge detail, but I know you were a teacher and you've been a musician and just things like that, but maybe highlights, a couple of highlights.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you asked me about the highlights because I'm always looking for the future. I think some of the really big highlights of my life have been the accomplishments. One of the happiest days of my life, thoroughly happy, was the day that I walked across the stage to get my doctorate. And I realized that it had been almost an impossible journey. I had two parents, you know, my parents died in the meantime, and all kinds of chaotic things happened. And I'm not a person that studies from 8 to 5, because I taught school. I taught 6th grade, and my mother was sick, and she was in the hospital, and we took turns going to see her and being with her at night because she didn't like being in the hospital by herself. So I mostly wrote my doctorate at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is why you were working, you were teaching full time.
Yeah, teaching full time.
How old were you when you finished it? About?
I was 51, I think. Yeah, but it took me, I was on the track, really getting my doctorate and everything going well when my father got ill.
Okay.
And he was sick for 8 years. And he had seizures, and he had Alzheimer's, and at the same time, everything else was happening in my life. But the good thing about it all was that through all of this, we got to be a closer family, and we got to really value each other. And I learned what it meant to have a 24-hour day, where you go to school, and regardless of what happens at school, you come home, and you're greeted at the door by my mother saying, "Come help." And of course, at the same time, my sister's life fell apart. And at the same time, we were doing some construction on my house. And of course, that went sideways. But through it all, I managed as a person not to wimp under pressure. And not to think, this is just a disaster, but to think instead of building hope around everybody else. Because believe it or not, I was the one that held the pen that kept the family together.
I believe it.
My mother leaned upon me. She told me all her secrets. My father leaned upon me. He told me all his secrets. And of course, I had to go fight for my sister because she was losing her job. And I just found that I told God that don't let me cry because I couldn't stop. Just hold me up so that I can go and teach 6th grade. And beginning of the year, all those years when all this was happening, I had the best classes.
In the sixth grade you were teaching?
Yes, and the worst principals. So all the good things that were happening, I was getting marked up for. A total reverse of what you would expect, you know. But I would travel. I started traveling. I think I took my first tour was to Italy.
Oh.
Yeah. Then, before I went to Italy, I didn't really realize that was beautiful, because in America, you can have brown skin, but blondes are always preferred.
Mm.
And when I got to Italy, I was called a chocolate bambini.
Bandini?
Yeah, everybody, I mean, I would walk down the streets and people would turn around and look at me and I would go, oh, this is different. You know? And I took a course, archaeology, and I got to see the caves below and all the places in Rome and around Rome. And I got to walk the sidewalks at night, because there was 9 people that were all Pisces. And we were on the same length, vibrational length. I've never been with people that, we would laugh at jokes and say, which joke are you talking about? I've never met these people. And we were all laughing about the same joke.
Wow.
And it was the most wonderful experience. And they all drank, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So we landed on the curb in Rome at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. We walked all over Rome at night and eating all the different types of food. And there was never a discouraging word, you know, to be with people on that vibrational length. You know, we could talk about anything.
Wow.
And I was in Rome for 6 weeks, and then my next big trip, of course, was India. And I discovered that in India, regardless of your wealth or your standing in life, God is with you. And I went as a Christian, I thought, but I came away as a real Christian. I had a chance to see people who had nothing, that were still praising God and still thankful. You know, I mean, I thought that I was a good person, but I wasn't.
Really?
Because I would always say, this is a fine day, but. But when you see people who really struggle for bread, for having a house, sometimes the police would come through and clear out all the houses around. And to meet people who prayed just to have a shelter. You know, go to a school where kids were underneath a tree. And those kids would be able to go abroad because of their education that they learned, you know? And I went to this one school where these kids had little slates, and they were all around this tree. And believe it or not, the teacher didn't have a book. Well, you can't believe how that affected me, because I mean, you can't do anything without a book.
The teacher without one.
Yeah, and she says, no, I'm here to teach these children how to pay attention. Because if they can pay attention, they can learn anything. And I was only with her, say, 45 minutes.
Sorry, Dorothea.
Yeah.
She said you're up in the front and the voices won't come in so much.
But when I returned to school, I taught a class just paying attention.
Was this 6th grade?
No, this was first grade. I was a reading consultant.
Oh, okay.
And that's all we did was to pay attention.
Wow.
And I only had them for, say, 30 minutes. But the success of the group that I had, the teachers told me later, they kept track of it, they kept saying that the children were doing very well.
Wow.
They were children that had problems.
Sure.
But learning how to pay attention was the key.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that reminds me of yoga a little bit, so
Yes.
maybe we should talk about yoga. Can you tell us, you've told me that you had done some
Oh, yes.
yoga previously in your 40s? Or before?
I started in my 40s, yes, yes. And the teachers were, they would come into the class and they said, oh, it's so good to be here. Let's do, let's see, what could we do today? And I thought, you don't know what you're going to do today? I've been teaching 6th grade all day with lesson plans, and I come here and you don't know what you're going to do? Well, anyway, every day was something different.
Mm-hmm.
And after being in a school system and in a classroom where everything was dramatic, or there's no normal day.
Mm-hmm.
And to come to LCC and be in a yoga class with a teacher that's not sure what she's doing left me always feeling, geez, I wish that the teacher would at least have a schedule.
Sure.
But after that, I did have 1 or 2 teachers that did have a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not on the level of a set schedule and all connected with your body and your mind and everything together.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I took ballet, which was very structured.
Oh.
From Maria. She was a great ballet teacher. I really liked her.
Oh, great.
At the same time, I took a job, and I did weights. And I walked out of the classes feeling refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally, I would say that I just threw my body in the car after teaching 6th grade at the staff meetings and everything, and drove. Because I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything. I could lay in, I was better off just laying in the street when I rolled over it. I felt so exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got into the dance room, regardless of what was happening outside, I kind of came alive.
Mm-hmm.
And in the yoga classes, I found out that my body could do more than I ever thought that my body could do. Because at that time, I could turn myself into knots and come out of them, and think nothing of it until one time I was absent because I went to a conference and I came back and I found out that the teacher had to go to the hospital because he turned himself into knots and couldn't get out, and even with the paramedics around there, nobody could get him untwisted. So
Oh, wow.
he went as is.
Oh my gosh.
As is.
We'll take you there.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was a wonderful experience, being in the yoga class at times.
Mm-hmm.
And like this room is perfectly hot. I love it. The rooms at LCC and at the Y were cold in the winter and very, very hot this summer.
Oh.
I've told you this, that the flies at the Y, the old building, the flies would be on the wall,
Okay.
and they would drop and they dead.
Because it was so hot.
So hot.
Uh-huh.
But in the winter, we would have on sweaters and leggings and everything else,
Right. Yeah.
And we never got hot enough. Never warm. Never sweat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
Such a difference. This is delightful.
You like the heat?
Oh yeah. The heat to me is healing. I got a healing from the heat.
Mm-hmm.
In India, I stayed with a family that were poor, but they gave me their mosquito nets. And I had the windows shut and the net all around me.
Yeah.
And I could feel my bones heating up. I could feel myself getting well because I had rheumatic fever and I was in pain all the time. But going to India relieved that pain.
Can you remind me about the rheumatic fever? Was that when you were in your 20s?
It started when I was about 16.
16. Okay.
I had the results of it lasted until I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how I got into dance. At that time, Dr. Harrison, my family doctor, told me that if I took ballet, that it would heal me.
Wow.
And so I took ballet with the people now, they have a transportation company, the D Transportation Company. The time I started taking ballet, I was in a class with little children like this.
Yeah.
We all wore pink tights and pink shoes, but
Yeah.
it was a good class because at that time, when I first started, I could hardly move.
Did it hurt? Was it really, or stiff, or both?
I felt sick all the time,
Yeah.
you know. But at the same time, I was taking harp. I studied harp. I finished school in music, so I played the harp all the way through my young adult life. I would travel and I would take harp lessons at the different studios, famous harpists. My harp teacher, Bill Frau, demanded that we join the Harp Society. So that was in 1962. They started the American Harp Society, and I was a member there. And I'd go to their conferences and get involved in what they were doing, and know the different harpists, and find out that even the harpists that travel could only practice an hour or two a day. So that inspired me.
Yeah.
The whole while I was teaching school and going to school, I took lessons in harp.
Oh, wow.
And you asked me what was some of the high points in my life. Some of the high points in my life have been kind of, for me, high moments. I remember some of my first high points was my father took us out of school to go see Haile Selassie when he came to Detroit. And that was inspiring to me because I didn't know who Haile Selassie was, but my father explained that he was from Ethiopia and they had never been conquered. And that it was worth more, a day and a moment with Haile Selassie was worth more than a year at school. You know, I thought, okay, we're going to see Haile Selassie.
You get to skip a grade now, right?
You know, but he was very concerned about us going to see Haile Selassie.
Wow. Do you remember, so you were in school, you were a kid then?
Yeah, I was in elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I think my grandfather's funeral on my mother's side, he was over 100. And,
wow.
and seeing the tradition of the family and them singing, let this, what is it, be unbroken. But anyway, being there and seeing how all the family traditions are carried out in the South,
Yeah.
and being around them, even in a sad time, how beautiful it is and how respectful it is. He built Clark College. When I say he helped build it, you know, he went out there with mortar and bricks, you know, and built it.
Wow.
And his father built Morehouse. And so when I go to Atlanta and be with my family in Atlanta, I hear all these stories that they tell me must not be forgotten.
Right.
You know, as they comb my hair. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, that was an experience. The name of the song is Let the Circle Be Unbroken.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
That was a high point. Some more high points in my life are, well, just being in India. And I wanted to be a missionary when I was a child.
You did.
And when I would have my cookies on the potty, I was always trying to save one or two for the children in India.
Aww.
And the church that was behind some of the pictures, we were Methodists, were a Methodist church in India. And one day, they said, the driver said, See this church here is one of the oldest Methodist churches. And he pulled out and he said, lots of missionaries have come here, but the largest percent of the missionaries in here were Indian women. And there I was standing with my red dress, and I had a bouquet of red flowers around me, roses. He took a picture. And I got to thinking, this building looks familiar. And it impressed upon me to look up. And I looked up and I saw the name and I said, oh, this is the building from my childhood. And I realized that here I am standing in front of this picture that I looked forward to being a missionary. And
Wow.
yeah, but my mother always said that it wouldn't be good for me to be a missionary because I caught everything. And I'd be my second patient because I wanted to go as a nurse.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that was my first dream.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have just a few minutes, Dorothy. Can I ask you a little bit about your experience in this yoga class?
Sure.
What got you to start? I mean, you started when you were 75 on the 4th of July, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Somehow I remember that. I was just wondering what brought you in and what your first impressions are, what it's been like for you.
Well, I wanted to, it's amazing, when you really talk to God about things, He really answers your question. I told Him all the things I didn't want. I didn't want a class that was chaotic. I didn't want a yoga class where people were competing. I know all this sounds negative.
No.
But and I told God, I said, now God, you find me the class. So I was driving by, and I didn't look at what the sign says, of course. That's the way you find things. But as I drove by, all of a sudden the word yoga came into my mind. I said, yoga? Here on Michigan Avenue, yoga. And so I drove by it again. I didn't know what that name meant out there. I had no idea. We parked the car. My sister was driving. And we parked the car right outside the building. And I felt kind of funny. I told him, do you know anything about yoga around here? She said, no, I don't know anything about yoga around here. So then I looked at the sign. And I said, I think this is the place where I'm going to start taking yoga. And I looked in the window, and Anne was sitting there. And I said, well, how do we start? I mean, how do you get involved? And all of a sudden, I was involved in yoga, in this room. And I realized that she told me a little bit about it, that it was going to be hot. And I thought, okay, so what? Then I found out from everybody else that you just don't go into a hot yoga class. You can't breathe, you sweat, and you do all these things in your hair and all, how people just go on and on. And I thought, no, this is where God wants me. So then I came in and I talked to Anne, and people around were very nice, and this is how I got started. I just felt led to be here. And the only thing that has disappointed me is why aren't there more positive advertisements out there?
Why aren't there more?
Yeah, why aren't there more? I've thought that. And I tell people about it, how thrilling it is, and they all go, oh, God. No, even in the classes that I was in at LCC, bring up the name of Bikram, everybody would laugh. I didn't know what they were laughing about because I was clueless. But they all thought this type of yoga was the hardest thing out. Well, if you're taking yoga in a room that's a little less than freezing, even in the summertime, they had air conditioning on.
Right.
And you have on sweaters, leggings, and you're doing yoga. It's hard work.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard work.
Definitely.
And you have teachers who themselves have been taught yoga, but they're doing it as a job, and they just feel like, well, maybe today we'll do let me see,
Downward dog. They just make stuff up.
So here we are, yeah. And so since you started, and you've been here for almost 5 years now, can you, well, and we'll start the practice about 9:05, okay? And I know, you've got to go, but if you can you tell us anything you can think of, things you've gained from the experience?
Well, the first thing, it's
You
not
can
very-
show us your face if you want for a moment.
Okay. The first thing I noticed was the odor. It purifies the body. So the first thing is your tremendous smell.
You mean coming from yourself or everybody? Oh, yeah.
Yes. Your clothes stink, you stink, sweat stinks, everything stinks. And then Anne tells us that your sweat, you're really losing a lot of weight with your sweat. And then I begin to notice that all of a sudden, the odor disappears. The sweat continues.
Sure.
But there's many things that get better with you. I've noticed tightening up of the muscles back in here.
In a good way, like
In a very good way, yes. Being able to stand long times, being able to do very hard work out in the garden, shoveling snow, more strength for, and this is after being involved in weights and different things like this.
Well, previously you had done weights.
Oh yes. I started doing weights when I was 42. And I began to notice that this horrible neck pain from teaching school and correcting papers has disappeared and gone. That's the thing that I can really notice is the neck pain and the shoulder pain. And then when it comes to being able to focus, regardless of what happens, being able to switch and be positive again. That to me is worth all the heat and all the money. Because if you can keep being positive in a world that is falling away and dying and sadness, and you keep being positive, you can grow old and be totally renewed every day. Yeah. I take cello lessons, and I don't say that I'm the greatest student, but to me it's such a thrill to be able to learn.
It is wonderful.
Yeah. And to come in here, I can come into this room, and regardless of what's happening to my life outside, I can have a positive experience and walk out of that door with renewed vision and perspective. Because I don't care what you go through, if you have the correct perspective, not only can you go through it, but you can help the situation become one of celebration.
That's amazing. And I'm going to turn the heat on. Can you tell us, I remember you telling me at one point you had asthma for a long time in your life, and then that seems to have changed.
Yes, I had the type of asthma where you missed a lot of school. And
so as a kid, as a child?
Very allergic to coal dust, cat hair, dog hair, and the list goes on. And so I would miss up to 30 days of school.
Wow.
And then sometimes I'd go to school and my mother would have to come and pick me up, take me home. But with yoga, the breathing issues have mostly been resolved.
Yeah.
I went through one winter where if it was cold outside, I couldn't breathe.
Uh-huh.
And that was the year before I came to
Really?
yoga, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And now it's okay? Or better a little?
I'll say that with this hot room and the exercises that we do, she tested me my doctor tested me for symptoms of yoga and making sure that clinically I did not have yoga or I did have yoga.
You mean asthma, right?
Yeah, asthma. And she found out that not only couldn't she test me for it, but I had no symptoms of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yes.
Wow, Dorothy.
But I think the biggest thing that I miss is the pain. Not having the pain. Growing old without the pain. That is yoga.
Wow. That makes me so happy. Thank you.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
I'm so happy that we can do this all together.
And I have to say that of all the teachers that I have had, I appreciate you as one of the finest.
Thank you, Dorothy. I want to give you a big hug, but it's 2021. I don't know. Big, huge hug. We've hugged before. We can carry it in memory, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to carry on with the class on this special day? Oh, it's worth it. 10 minutes is worth it to hear from you and listen to you. I know how to rush things. We can skip a couple sets, right?
Yes, except not spine twisting.
Well, you were asking me some of the places that I have lived in my life. Just briefly, I've been to the Great Wall.
Oh, wow.
I've been to the Himalayas. I've been to Mother Teresa's house in Calcutta, where she was in Canada. But I've been into the storage rooms of the in England, and underneath where the carriages are kept. I've been to in the fireplace where the last is it king or emperor of Russia was hid, and I went downstairs in the basement and scared all the people down there because they weren't expecting a person walking around in their area.
Oh.
And let me see, where else have I been? Oh, I've been to many places, including a cave in New Zealand where they had bats all around. And I found a solution to having bats in my house.
Oh, is it a quick solution or?
A very quick one.
What's that?
Find a way to eliminate the bats, like have a long nylon stocking where they fly out and can't get in,
Oh.
instead of poisoning them.
Oh, yeah, give them an exit.
Yes.
One way. It's a one-way street, right?
Yes. And one day, the whole sky turned black where the bats left my wall, inside my wall.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, good tips and tricks you weren't expecting in your yoga class this morning, right? I'm so glad that you were drawn here in the first place, and we've been here. Dorothy's around at her 500th class, a little bit under, just approaching 500, and it's been almost 5 years. That was 2016, so never too late to start, right?
Well, it is too late if you wait too late and you die.
There is such a thing as too late. If you don't start at all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for helping. If anybody wants to be over here, you can join the party in the streamer side of the room if you wish. I need this spot clear, but there's 2 spots in the front there if you want to have a streamer class. Are you guys happy over there? Okay, they're happy over there, off camera. All right, Dorothy. How about some breathing? Thanks everybody for hanging out with us.